Wow, the rare Jamie Eisner first. That's somewhat shocking. But welcome in, Jamie. How are you today? I know we were just talking offline before I pressed the go live button, but I did not expect you to be the first person in here. But hello. Bailey Bailey with the off the top rope elbow saying second. Hello, everybody. A pleasant Tuesday morning to you all. You guys know the drill. I'm doing stuff in the background here, getting some stuff ready to go, tweeting stuff out. Got the new setup ready to go. Jamie has seen the new setup. It's still a work in progress. I know I sound a little different. Working on some changes here to the setup, but yeah. We are getting close to being in a whole new setup here. So just give me a second. I am, as you probably can hear, I am typing out the tweet for the show, and we can get started here in just a second. Or a throwback, a news and notes edition of the show. A lot of interesting things happening over the last 24 hours in the NFL world. In the Austin Ekeler deal early this morning, learning that information about that. So just a lot of things for us to go through from a news perspective, and I can share my thoughts. I can share my thoughts on them. Colton says, "Think we are broadcasting from Siberia again." I don't know if in comparison to yesterday we're going to define this more or less like Siberia. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to define this more or less like Siberia, but we'll see. We'll see. I got to get the tweet out, and then we can get started. So just give me a second, everybody. But hello, welcome in, everybody. Jamie, I can't tweet from the main account. This laptop doesn't have access to the main account, and so I've been meaning to tell you that I kind of need the password again, so that I could get in there. So if you could just retweet my tweet from the main account, maybe we could figure that out for tomorrow. Yeah, probably should have done that before the show, but yeah, I can't tweet from the main account right now. Bailey, the Isaiah Spiller breakout season had a very short-lived, less than 24-hour run. Less than 24 hours was the Isaiah Spiller breakout. Maybe we'll do that when we do the Ekeler segment on the show. We'll go back and rehash that. But okay, I need to tweet this out and then we can get started. Okay, here we are. We're back. Tuttle says keep it for next year instead. Oh, he's on the short list. We'll go to the big screen here. Hello, everybody. This is the new setup. We're working on some stuff for the back of this wall. My LED lights that I normally have behind me, I don't have them unpacked yet, so maybe we'll string those up here and get us some lighting. But the new setup. Welcome in, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great start to their Tuesday. Austin Ekeler on the short list for breakout 2024 candidates. I mean, guys in the top 5 for sure. Probably one of the favorites. I am. So I mean, all right. How behind the scenes do we want to get here, everybody? Because Jamie's kind of giving away some information. So I am in a what is, I think, on the other side of the camera, technically still half of a walk-in closet. So I'm in a walk-in closet, and there was a lot of space on this side. And I thought to myself, okay, I can make this a nice little dungeony lair-style office gaming room for myself. And obviously, I need a little bit of space for all the equipment that I have from a work perspective. My camera, I've got a light behind this. I've got a fan sitting at my desk because I sit at my desk a lot recording shows and stuff. It gets hot. And so I've got all my equipment, my laptop, my keyboard, the audio mixer, like everything is here on the desk. The microphone's right here. And so I need an area where I can get in and out of and also have space to be able to put all my equipment. So we've decided to retrofit what was a walk-in closet into my office. And so for the time being, this is where the temporary setup will be. And we're working on the back wall. Yes, I'm wearing a All Elite Young Bucks t-shirt today here on the show. Appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate everybody making the show a part of their day. But yeah, this will be the new setup for the time being. The background is a work in progress. We've already got some things that we're going to be working on for that later today. Maybe it'll look a little different for tomorrow's show. Don't know necessarily. But yeah, very news and notes edition of the show, kind of a throwback. I know everyone's been kind of really enjoying the deep dive topics. I have been too. But there's a lot of research that goes into those. And so can't really pump those out every single day because I got prospects and props and some other stuff's going on as well. So figured I'd throw TDN Daily back to the news and notes style that we used to do in the past. And again, we've got a lot of things that have happened in the last 24 hours from an NFL news perspective that I want to share my thoughts on, that I briefly shared my thoughts on today's prospects and props, because some of the information did come out while Jamie and I were recording the show yesterday. So some of my thoughts are over there, but I can kind of go more in depth here in this format with you guys and get your guys' live reactions to it as well. So a news and notes edition of the show. Don't worry, we'll be back to the deep dives here pretty regularly pretty soon. Got a lot of things that we're working on behind the scenes that I'm excited to share with you guys pretty soon. So if you guys are ready to go in the live YouTube chat, I'll press record for the podcasting audience and we can get the show on the road. And welcome in to the Tuesday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope everybody having a great start to their Tuesday. Welcome in a news and notes edition of the show here today. We're going old school. The last 24 hours, very newsworthy, very noteworthy for the NFL. Some rule changes. Austin Ekeler got himself a new contract. All of that the focus of today's TDN Daily. I'll share my thoughts. We've got the live YouTube chat also here, ready to go, ready to share their thoughts. And it's always fun to do shows like this when the NFL all in one day, and they've got the league meetings, the owners meetings going on right now. And so this trickle of news that's going to come out here over the next couple of days does provide some fun conversation starters here for this podcast. And yesterday certainly provided a nice little backdrop, a first day for some of these topics. And I do want to start with the information from this morning because it allows me to poke fun at myself and what we did on yesterday's show with our breakout candidates for all 32 teams. But Adam Schefter early this morning reporting that after requesting that trade, after not wanting to be in LA with the Chargers anymore, Austin Ekeler and the Chargers work out an agreement. He gets $2 million more, close to $2 million more in incentives added to his deal for this season. And then Ekeler gets to be a free agent after this season at age 28. So we could talk about this from the Austin Ekeler perspective, what this means for the Chargers. But really quickly, we picked Isaiah Spiller as our breakout candidate for the Los Angeles Chargers on yesterday's show because I did not anticipate this exact thing happening. And less than 24 hours later, Austin Ekeler finds himself with a new deal and is going to stay in the Chargers. So we will need to, we got Isaiah Spiller off the list, not a breakout candidate anymore now with Austin Ekeler there back in LA with the Chargers. But let's talk about this from a straight football perspective. I don't think it's going to be surprising to anybody that's going to hear me say that Austin Ekeler, a major part of this Chargers offense. And so when he requested a trade, it did cause some concern about what this Chargers team was going to be. Listen, they're always going to go as far as Justin Herbert is able to take them, right? I mean, they believe that they've got their franchise top 8, top 6, top 5 quarterback in the National Football League. I expect that deal to get done pretty soon too. Where he's going to have his long-term deal there in LA, and we'll see the numbers on that. So they're going to go as far as he's going to take them, but they do need to play complementary football. And Austin Ekeler was the perfect complementary back to the way that they want to play. He's a great pass catcher out of the backfield. They want to pass a lot. He's a good runner, a decent enough runner to where he gives you multi-purpose out of the backfield, and as a player that really elevates this offense to another level when he is another threat, another added piece that defenses need to game plan for. So for the Chargers, just having Austin Ekeler on the field for next season is a massive win. That is a huge step in the right direction for them because having to put together what this is going to look like in his absence, we mentioned Isaiah Spiller already. It was going to be Joshua Kelly and Isaiah Spiller kind of filling in this role. I'm pulling up the Chargers depth chart to make sure that there's nobody there that I totally forgot about. Yeah, Joshua Kelly and Isaiah Spiller were going to be the guys that were going to have to pick up the workload. Now, we here at TDN Daily said yesterday that Isaiah Spiller could have been a breakout candidate. We believed in that ability, but it's still a question mark, right? And so to have the sure thing, the known, the proven commodity in Austin Ekeler back, you give him a little bit more in incentives, which is going to, again, it's why they're called incentives, incentivize Austin Ekeler to go out there and prove everybody, prove to the world at 27, 28 years old, hey, I can still play this game. It's going to help him this season to be able to be the best version of himself because he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year and is going to want that new contract wherever it may be. And for the Chargers, they get a very motivated, a very proven player in Austin Ekeler back in their fold for a team that's going to try to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champs in the AFC West. So, Adam Schefter called it a win-win, was kind of limited to the characters there on Twitter of how we could describe it a win-win. But yeah, I'm in full agreement. Win-win for everybody. It's a win-win. It's a win for the Chargers. They get their proven commodity back at the running back position with incentives in his deal that's going to put him in a position to want to go out there and want to prove to the world that he can still play at a top-end level at that position at 27, 28 years old. And for Austin Ekeler, he's in a contract year, so if he balls out, it's going to turn into a pretty decent payday for him down the road when free agency comes in 2024. So again, a win-win for everybody, and the Chargers needed to get this done. I'm surprised they got it done. I'm surprised that Austin Ekeler is going to be back in LA. I thought that relationship was basically over, but I think it's a good thing for both sides that they were able to figure it out. And Colton says it correctly in the chat. It's a prove-it deal, basically. Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what this is. It is a prove-it deal not for the Chargers, but it is a prove-it deal for Austin Ekeler for free agency in 2024, because I think the Chargers will be very comfortable now knowing at the end of this season that they're going to turn things over to Joshua Kelly and or Isaiah Spiller in 2024. The trade request maybe have caught them off guard, and they maybe weren't planning to have to pivot here in 2023. Well, now they don't have to, because they were able to get this deal done with Austin Ekeler. And for Ekeler, it's a great way to go out and showcase himself in a free agency year now. How good he can be and turn it into a pretty big payday. Bailey says, I thought the Chargers were a spot for the veteran running backs like Cook, if cut, and Zeke, Kellen Moore, familiarity. If they moved Ekeler, those spots are drying up now. Bailey, that's a great way to take this conversation, and I wasn't planning on it, but we can do that very quickly here. The Chargers were a team that you could potentially put on the short list if they did move on from Austin Ekeler. I mean, we pontificated, we kind of joked about an Austin Ekeler for Dalvin Cook swap because it made sense for both sides, right? Alexander Mattison can slide into that starting role in Minnesota. Austin Ekeler, a nice complementary piece. Dalvin Cook, the Chargers don't have to worry about replacing a runner. It works for everybody, right? We kind of joked about that. But yeah, those spots are kind of drying up. I wonder, and this next move would both add a player to this market, but also create a new spot. If the Bengals cut Joe Mixon, I'm of the belief that they could go with Chase Brown, and I think Chase Brown would be incredible value for Rookie of the Year. I talked about this on Prospects and Props. The value for Chase Brown as a Rookie of the Year candidate if Joe Mixon is cut, because I think Chase Brown could be the immediate starter there in Cincinnati. But could they look to replace Joe Mixon with a veteran? Joe would save them $10 million against the cap if they cut him post June 1. It's not going to cost you $10 million to bring in Dalvin Cook or Ezekiel Elliott for this season. And so could they look towards the veteran free agency market? They are a team that makes a ton of sense. But look around the league, a team's going to want to add a running back, right? Teams are always going to want to add running back depth, but I don't know if those guys are going to get massive contracts. There's always been the rumored Miami connection with Dalvin Cook. We know how Miami likes to use running backs. They drafted a running back in Devon Achane in the 2023 draft. They also have Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert currently on the roster. So they've already got 3 backs, but their first 2 guys aren't, the epitome of health. They've had injury histories that have forced them to miss significant action over the last couple of seasons. So are they a team that's in the mix? We already mentioned Cincinnati, but we can take the Chargers off that list. What other teams really, jump off the page to you? That's a team that could use a running back. I mean, I know they used a 5th-round pick on Israel Abanikanda, and I know Breece Hall is there, but could the Jets be interested in adding a veteran presence? You've kind of pushed your chips all in the middle here for 2023. Do you really take it over the top if an opportunity presents itself to bring in a Dalvin Cook, to bring in a Zeke, to bring in a player like that to help bolster your offense? Does it make some sense? It could, but there aren't a ton of immediate slam dunk home run options for these guys. And I think that's why you're seeing it that we sit here on May 23rd and those guys are still unsigned. It's not like Zeke and Dalvin. Dalvin Cook is technically still a member of the Minnesota Vikings, right? And so we need to look at the way that situation plays out. He can't go anywhere until he gets cut. The expectation is that they're more than likely going to move on from him. But Zeke's still sitting out there. Total free agents, running backs got a lukewarm response this year. It makes sense for Ekeler to get more money this year and still produce in hopes of a good free agent deal next year. Yeah, again, I think Austin Ekeler played this, perfectly. I think he got a good deal. I think the Chargers are going to feel pretty good about it. Again, win-win for everybody. But from a running back market as a whole, something to keep an eye on. And Bailey kind of mentions that training camp injury is the only hope for them now. I don't think so. I think some team will pick them up. Hope for a big contract? Potentially. But hope for a landing spot, for a place to play next season? Again, I think Ezekiel Elliott will have a spot next season to play. It's just a question of, does that match up with the value that he thinks he's worth here at this stage of his career? But something to keep an eye on here as we progress forward. We are just 8-9 days away from June 1, where these cuts will potentially start to file in a little bit quicker. We'll see if there's a changing landscape a little bit of free agents and how this situation, how this free agency plays out, specifically when it comes to the running backs. NFL rules, the other topic of conversation that I want to have here today, because we've got a couple of different rule changes that the NFL passed yesterday, the NFL owners passed yesterday, and I want to share my thoughts on them. And I think the easiest place for us to start is the rule change that the NFL passed that approved flex scheduling for Thursday night football. And I remember we've done Friday free-for-alls about this. I've done dedicated shows about this where I've discussed the NFL scheduling and the idea of flexing Thursday night football. And I have always been strictly opposed to it, right? I have never thought it was a good idea from multiple different layers. Layer one, a player safety layer of flexing in Thursday night games. Thursday night football is already an increased risk for player safety. Players have discussed how much they don't like it, how the short prep week is just, it leaves them susceptible to injuries. So just from jump, the player safety aspect of it has always been really, really bothersome to me. But a underlayer to this, and I think it's not as important of a layer as player safety. Player safety should always be the top priority when it comes to making decisions like this that are in this bucket. But I think a underlayer to this that's an important thing for us to discuss is the idea of, you got fans who spend their hard-earned money, and not to get political here, but inflation, stuff's costing more than it used to. That includes what it costs to go to a stadium, to go to a football game, to go to a sporting event, to buy food at the game, to buy memorabilia at the game. Stuff's more expensive. And so when people shell out their hard-earned dollars to go to a game on a Sunday, and the NFL now passes a rule in which those games now can immediately get flexed to a Thursday, there are people who might not be able to make a game on Thursday, and they've already shelled out their hard-earned money. So that was always a logistical concern for me, and a PR concern for me, is that this just doesn't make a ton of sense. Now, we've learned a little bit more of what parameters are being put on the flexing of Thursday night football that I think at least alleviate that concern for me, right? That concern gets alleviated. The player safety concern, not that much alleviated. But it's only from weeks 13 to 17. So right now it's only the late stretch of the season, weeks 13 to 17. And it requires a 28-day notice. So the NFL has to make these decisions with the greatest foresight of all time to be able to comfortably make a decision of changing a game and slotting a game into Thursday night football. So to me, an overall look at this, I don't see how many games, at least this season. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Some quick math says that's 5 games that are the potential to be flexed. To me, I'd be shocked if they flex more than one of the games. I'd be surprised if they flex the game at all for 2023. And Colton asks, what's even the point then? And that leads into the conversation that I really wanted to have when it came to this specific rule change. Because the reasoning from the league and from the owners as to why this got approved. By the way, this got approved by the absolute thinnest of margins, 24-8. That is the minimum amount of owners that can vote against a proposal and it can still pass. So if one other owner changed course and went to the no side, this would not pass. This passed by the thinnest of margins. And it's very rare that we get votes that are that close. Most things, a couple teams is abstain, or it's 1 or 2 vote it down, even though they know it's going to pass. Very rarely do we get the 24-8. And so, for me, when I look at this, when I look at the idea of the reasoning that the NFL gave of, well, these are our primetime games. These are our standalone games. These are the games that we need that are the biggest appeal, the biggest draw, the biggest buzz, because these are the only tickets in town right now. This is the only game that's on our screen. And so if Amazon's shelling out big dollars for Thursday Night Football, for the Thursday Night Football package, we got to make sure that they're getting their money's worth. We got to make sure they're getting the biggest matchups. And flexing weeks 13 through 17 late in the season allows us to flex in those playoff-esque matchups, those matchups that are going to have major implications. Now, they've got to do it 28 days in advance. So again, can they predict the future and know which games are going to have the massive playoff implications? I don't know with what high degree of certainty they're going to be able to do that. But for me, the reasoning allows me to go to a place where there's an easier solution on the table. You want to be able to put the best games, you want to be able to put the marquee matchups on a given week in your best spots. Open up your flex scheduling for the entire slate. Open up your flex scheduling from weeks 2 through week 18. Open up your flex scheduling for Sunday Night Football. Open up your flex scheduling for Monday Night Football. From a logistics perspective, don't you think it's easier if you flex a 1 or 4 p.m. Sunday game into the 8 p.m. slot? Don't you think that's a little bit easier for fans? They already blocked the day off, so instead of going at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock, they're going at 8 o'clock now? Or the relevant time zone change wherever the game will be played? Don't you think that's easier than moving a game from Sunday to Thursday? That you've already approved Sunday night flexing from weeks, 12 on? You've already approved Monday Night Football flexing from week 12 on. So why not use that flex scheduling for the entirety of the season? Al Bundy says in the chat, it's not for the fans, it's for the TV stations. Again, why the Chris Schubert proposal is the one that makes the most sense. If it's for the TV dollars, if it's for the ability to get these ESPNs, the NBCs of the world, the money, the big-time matchups, open up your flex scheduling for all 17 games. That's a great starting point. Now, that doesn't solve the Thursday Night Football thing. That doesn't solve flexing those games. But on one hand, you can't say we want to get exposure for all the teams. We want to get exposure for all the teams and to be able to showcase all these teams to a national audience. And then on the other hand, say we got to have these big-time primetime matchups. Those don't work hand in hand. And so if those two things can't work together in my head. And so for me, I think the easiest solution that's an immediate solution is to flex Sunday night and Monday Night Football throughout the entirety of the season. And I see some people in the chat, both Al Bundy and Colton, have brought up the idea that Amazon was carrying some pretty low quality games. Colton says Amazon's probably angry about how bad Thursday night games were last year. Well, guess what? If that's the case, then Amazon didn't do their research ahead of time. Did they crawl out from under a rock? Did Jeff Bezos and Amazon not pay attention when they decided to drop all this coin on Thursday Night Football at the way the schedule was already put together when it was on Fox or NFL Network? The games not being high quality or the games not being the highest matchups, marquee matchups, that didn't come out of nowhere in 2022. That's been a common complaint. I can remember doing schedule release shows here for the Draft Network last year in which we joked, okay, what are going to be the bad Thursday night games this year that Amazon's going to get stuck with? Because that's the way the schedule has always been run. So I'm sorry, but I don't feel, you're not going to see me feel bad for Amazon that they're angry about how bad the games were last year if that truly was the case. Then they didn't do their research before dropping all the money that they dropped on the Thursday Night Football package. So, spare me with the sympathy for Jeff Bezos and Amazon. You're a multi-billion-dollar company. Maybe do a little bit more research into how Thursday Night Football was operating. Now, again, this feels like a move to placate Amazon that's not going to really do anything, right? Because I don't know how many games the NFL is truly going to flex that late in the season. We can look at the schedule. I know we did this on Prospects and Props yesterday. Jamie read out to me the games that are in Thursday night for these weeks. And so we can do the bit here for maybe those that aren't a ton of crossover listeners between TDN Daily and Prospects and Props. But you're going to have to give me a second. We're going to have to do the bit where I research things in real time. So we start with week 13. Thursday night is Seattle against Dallas. That's on Thursday, November 30th. So on November 2nd is when when they can start flexing that game. They have to make a decision by November 2nd if they want to flex that game. Does everybody here think on November 2nd we're going to know whether or not Seattle and Dallas is going to be an inconsequential game? Dallas on Thursday night, we're keeping that game. I think it's pretty clear that game is going to stay on the schedule. December 7th, New England against Pittsburgh. Those are two big markets. Don't see that game getting flexed out of week 14. Week 15, the Chargers at the Raiders. Okay, I can see a scenario where that's going to be the case. In Vegas with the Raiders. Don't know how good they're going to be at that point, but that's December 14th. Go 28 days before then. That's when the NFL has to make a decision on whether or not they're going to flex that game. Week 16, the Saints at the Rams. This might be the most likely case. This might be the most likely game. The Rams might not be pretty good. I'm a big believer in the Saints, but if they don't put it together, this game could definitely hit the chopping block. Thursday, December 21st. And remember, that's a week in which you have 2 games on Saturday that are already in nationally televised slots on NBC and on Peacock. So don't think those 2 games are eligible to move. You have 3 games in the national window on Monday, December 25th for Christmas. Those are nationally televised games that are standalone in their slots. So you're not going to have that. And so you're going to pick from a very, very limited group of games from Sunday, December 24th that you're going to pick from for these to flex in. And then week 17, we'll take a peek real quick. The Jets at the Browns. That could be a game that could mean something for both teams. That could be, those 2 teams could be battling it out for a major playoff spot, a wild card spot at that point. So again, December 28th, the end of November, are you making a decision to flex that game? No, I don't think so. So again, I don't know truly how much this is going to play out into terms of flexing actual games that changed the schedule. Al says it's the Russell Wilson story. By middle of last year, we all knew Russ sucked, so flexing him out would be ideal for Amazon. NFL wants to please Amazon because it's another big TV contract they can get. Oh, I understand it. But again, that means Amazon didn't do their market research as to what this property actually did for them. And for the NFL, I don't know truly with this new flexing schedule how much flexing they are truly going to be able to do. Right? That's the big takeaway that I have from this story. And then the last story we're going to discuss here on the show is the NFL approving the idea of dressing a third quarterback without using an active 53-man roster spot. And this all ties to the San Francisco playoff game in which they lost both of their quarterbacks to injury. And basically they were getting Christian McCaffrey ready to play quarterback at one point. We maybe can just call this the Brock Purdy rule. But the NFL owners approving the bylaw that was proposed that allows a team to dress a third quarterback, and that does not count against the 53-man active roster when it comes to game days. And the idea behind that is this quarterback can only play if the other 2 quarterbacks are injured and are unable to return. Now, my immediate reaction is who's going to be the first team that figures out a way to circumnavigate this rule and complain about the way a quarterback's playing, and then he's injured, and then another quarterback is going to be able to come in. But there appear to be a lot of coaches on board with this. There appear to be a lot of teams that are on board with this. Robert Saleh, New York Jets head coach, and the only reason why I know is because obviously it inundates my Twitter feed, but he was asked about it at his media availability today at the start of OTAs, and he thought it was a good idea. So I think you're going to see some coaches on board with this. Certainly you're going to see obviously some owners were on board with this as well since it got approved. And so I'm not necessarily against it. I think it's a good idea. I just worry about its implementation, and I worry about some team figuring out a way to circumvent the rule and put themselves in an advantageous situation. But yeah, the NFL passing some rules. I'm sure there'll be some more news and notes that come out here over the next couple of days from the NFL owners meetings. I believe in Minnesota is where they are, Minneapolis, where these NFL owners meetings are. And real quick, San Francisco getting the Super Bowl in 2026, and Green Bay, for TDN purposes, getting the draft in 2025. So Detroit next year and Green Bay in 2025. So those are some fun destinations. Interesting to see how they set themselves up in Green Bay. Detroit, I think, is going to have the infrastructure. Green Bay, other than the Packers, they don't have a whole lot. So what's the infrastructure going to look like there? That'll be something interesting to keep an eye on. But appreciate you making this news and notes edition of TDN Daily a part of your day today. We would greatly appreciate a rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, tell a friend about the show, share the show with a friend. We greatly appreciate all the support that you guys give to this show. You want to watch the YouTube version of the show, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time over on the Draft Network YouTube channel. We hang out and have a good time over there. The pre-show, the recording of the actual show, and then the post-show. And then again, if you want to catch it on demand, you can do so later on in the day if you are so inclined. So you've got that option as well. But appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Using Lambeau and Titletown a bunch already confirmed. That's not the logistics concern that I have, Colton. The logistics concern that I have is, where are you going to put everybody? Detroit, major city. Detroit, major franchises. They've got the Pistons. They've got the Red Wings. They've got the Lions. They've got the Tigers. It's a 4-sport town. They've got the infrastructure. They've got the hotels. They've got the transportation. They've got all that stuff. Green Bay, Wisconsin? The Packers are in the middle of a residential area. So are they going to have the infrastructure set up in place? I'm sure the NFL feels that they will, or else they would not have picked them. So we'll see. But just an interesting choice. But yeah, Green Bay for the draft and San Francisco for the 2026 Super Bowl. Super Bowl 60, I think, is what that one is. But yeah, so a news and notes worthy edition of the show. So appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate everybody making this show a part of your day. Probably we'll get back to more of the breakdown style shows tomorrow. Don't necessarily know what topic it'll be yet, but that'll probably be the plan for tomorrow as we get more and more into the way things are. As we get more and more to a regular schedule here on the show, now that I've got the new setup and ready to go, I think more breakdowns will definitely be possible. So we'll probably get back into that a little bit more tomorrow. But I appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day. Everybody have a great rest of your Tuesday. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.